Hi everyone, this is Dr. Fitzgerald, and today we're talking in EDL606 a little bit about IRB and a little bit of getting into program evaluations and needs assessments and those types of things. So the way that I'm trying to structure this course is that we're reading and learning via the PowerPoints similar and connected information, because while great books like these break everything down into nice bite-sized chunks, a lot of program evaluation is this iterative process. And today I want to make one of those connections between Chapter 2 and 3 in RACI. So in Chapter 2, we're reading about the IRB. And the IRB is really important if you're doing research. We're not doing research, we're just doing program evaluation. But the IRB brings up some really important questions for us, like, is it ethical for me to do this? Or who should I bring into research? And what does that all look like? And so their job is to make sure that we're not harming anybody and that we're doing research that is meeting everybody's needs at the end result, and that our means and our ends aren't at cross odds. One of the things that the IRB is really focused on is this idea of ethics. And so when they ask questions about, like, how are you gathering the data, it's not just about are you gathering data from the right people, but are those right people also ethically the right people? Should we be asking the, people those types of questions? So we read about that in Chapter 2. In Chapter 3, RACI is going to start going into these needs assessment and thinking about things like nominal groups. Now, a nominal group is a really fancy way of essentially saying a brainstorming session. And so RACI puts it in a little bit of a different context, and I think that's really important for us to think about, because brainstorming has some major downfalls. So when you read in Chapter 3, RACI talking about nominal groups, what he's talking about is this idea of getting people in a group, identifying the problem, and then sending everybody out for a couple minutes. And by a couple minutes, I'm using a Pittsburgh term. That might be a week, that might be a couple weeks, to go do some research and then come back together with some expert opinions and some expert thought. This is really critical, because whenever we put a group together as leaders, we need to be really concerned with epistemic isolation. Epistemic isolation. It's this idea that we all think very much like the people in our groups, in our circles. So if I'm in a company, I'm probably thinking a lot like the other people in the company. A good way to express this is also through, like, Facebook, right? My Facebook friends, by and large, look and think like me. That great unfriending button or unfollow button, right? But what that does is that creates this whole group that all thinks alike. And so here's the problem with epistemic isolation as it relates to program evaluation, as it relates to IRBs, is that we can get ourselves to a point where no one thinks that what they're doing is unethical, or no one thinks that what they're doing is problematic or closed off to one particular group, because they're all thinking alike. So when I want you to really pay attention in the IRB and in RACI Chapter 3, when we talk about nominal groups, thinking about how do we fight against epistemic isolation, okay? There's another big problem with nominal groups, and I just want to say this because, well, I have a video and I might as well say it right here. Brainstorming isn't often or almost ever the best way to get group opinion. RACI's way is really nice in as much as you're identifying the problem, sending people out to get their own information, and then coming on back together and brainstorming from a position of knowledge. But if you just get a group of people together and say, throw out some ideas, let's throw the proverbial spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks, two things happen. One, you actually create fewer original ideas than if everyone just wrote down their ideas by themselves. By just asking everybody to throw spaghetti against the wall, you actually come up with fewer original ideas than you would have if everybody came up with a list of their own ideas. That's number one. Number two, there's this interesting phenomenon with brainstorming where people, even if they disagreed at the very beginning of a conversation, by the end, they will swear to you that they had the same thought as the group, It's called groupthink. And so brainstorming is rife for this idea of, or this way of having groupthink really affecting our outcomes. So as you read Royce Chapter 3 or Chapter 2, think about the IRB, and as you're going through the slides that I posted for this week, I want you to think about these two things and about how the ways that we do our methods, the ways that we gather data, and the ways that we try to be ethical, how those two things are not dissimilar from each other, number one, and number two, how those things really interact with each other in really some profound ways. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I'm really looking forward to connecting with you online. Have a great one.